Hey everybody, Dustin Bynum here from the Bynum Group with another DIY project. A lot of times when we finish up with a property or do a renovation, we've got a lot of extra materials laying around, remnant materials, reclaimed wood, and that kind of thing. So, question is what to do with it. A lot of times people just haul it off to the dump, but sometimes it's a bit on the tragic side to throw away materials that actually could be repurposed or reused for something that could be, a creative project. But, you can't store this stuff forever. A lot of it is, may have nails in it, may not be the most attractive piece of wood, but it could still be used for something. Um, what we're going to show you today is my spin on how to do a reclaimed wood desktop. I'm going to use this one for my own personal desk in my office. Um, all the materials are materials that were um, left behind, scrap, trash from renovation projects on properties, fix and flips and stuff that we've done in the past. So, this is a really cheap, almost no cost type project. Just requires some sweat equity and a little bit of vision to know what to do. Let me show you what I have. So spare you the details. In fact, my workbench here is just an old tabletop that was found at a property that we had to clean out. Um, got a brand new bit here in the package that we can reuse, and all this material here is just reclaimed lumber. You can still see, we've run it through a table saw. I don't have a joiner. I'm not trying to make this the most perfect flat work surface. It just has to be aesthetically pleasing to the eye. So what we're going to do is, since we have these old remnant pieces of wood with this paint on it, it's kind of ratty. You can see some nail holes and knots and just otherwise not a real pleasant looking piece of wood. But we can do a tabletop that gives that a bit of that farmhouse effect. So we've trimmed them up. All these planks right here are just from scrap lumber, and we've trimmed them up to 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. So the question is, now how do we take these boards? Some of them are a little bit twisted. They're not exactly straight, not the best lumber. But it still could be used for something useful and get another crack at a new life here. So none of the boards have been cut to length. You can see some of them are busted. Some of them are broken off. They're going to need some edges and knots cut out of them. There's some knot right there. This is probably not going to hold up real well. See if I move it, it's actually probably on the verge of breaking. But once we have everything done here, we're going to glue this up. We're going to take some all thread. Let me show you. So we're going to take some of this all thread right here, and I had these laying around, happens to fit that all thread. Here's a couple of inset type nuts that maybe we can use. There's a package of washers that we could use. There's another package of those nuts right there, some more washers. So this is all just stuff that we've kind of had laying around, probably used for something else. Now I made a jig, so you can see it's an old scrap piece of wood. It's been used to be painted on. It's just a piece of old pine. Wasn't a particularly sexy piece of pine, but there's some pipe fittings that we used as a guide. So this is just a Kreg jig, really. It's nothing particularly fancy. I'll show you the other side of it. There's a couple of strips of lumber there used as a guide. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our pieces of wood and we're going to put them right here in this jig and flip this thing over, and we're going to drill 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 holes for this all thread. And we're going to throw some glue in between each one of these pieces of wood, and we're going to pull it tight with this all thread. And I guess we'll use these nylocks. Probably want to put a recess or a pocket there so that these don't stick out at the end. Maybe we could use those. Don't really know yet. It's not a project that's thoroughly planned through. It's, hey, what can I do with the old junk laying on my front of my garage here without having to throw it into the local landfill, throw it into the burn barrel, or waste these materials. So my expectation is we're going to get kind of a industrial farmhouse type look piece of material here that we can use as a work surface. It's not going to be a writing desk. It's going to be too lumpy for that. If you have to write on it, maybe you put a leather pad or something underneath it that you might see in a office suite, something like that. But for the most part, it's going to be holding a laptop with a mouse and a mouse pad on it. Doesn't have to be particularly smooth or straight. In fact, may actually be straighter than my kitchen table in my own house when I'm done. Let's see how this comes out. If it's too lumpy, we can always take it over to the power planer or the hand planer. We could always smooth it out with a dual action sander. Hit it with a DA. Could always prime it, put paint on it if we wanted. We could always throw a translucent stain on the material. Could do it in chalk paint. All kinds of possibilities available. I don't know where I'm going to go with this project. I want to see how the material looks like first, but I really like just the fact that as I milled this down, I've got this remnant paint right here on these sticks, and it just has that super popular reclaimed wood look to it. I didn't want to go too deep on the cuts because I really wanted to kind of preserve some of this paint. I think like when you get these knotty edges right here and it's just scraped away, it looks like somebody tried to make something work out of old materials, and that's exactly the style and that I'm shooting for. So farmhouse, industrial farmhouse, whatever you want to call it. It's reclaimed, barn wood, whatever you want to call it. This is just junk lumber. It didn't come out of any place fancy. Didn't come out of a historical site. There's not really a tale to be told with it. It's just old reclaimed lumber. Some of it's been sitting out in the field and it's real dry, but as we cut through the meat of it, it is real clean. There's that one. Look, that stick almost looks brand new. It's it may give us a kind of a cool work surface, and if nothing else, it's a talking point. So we've got we have been for some time now collecting bases from old tables, and we've been spray painting those old tables to kind of our company colors because our office is done in a bit of a farmhouse theme. And this is just going to be another addition to the office space with another reclaimed wood and reclaimed farmhouse table type base, and should fit in the theme of our office quite good. We usually get lots of compliments from any of our clientele that come in. Even some of our staff is asking, hey, how can I get one of those? Nothing fancy. We're just trying to reuse and repurpose everything that we can get our hands on, and save a trip to the dump, save some of this material from being just wasted, and give it a second chance at life. So again, nothing fancy here. These screws, little 1-inch drywall screws, are all I use to hold this makeshift jig together. These little brass fittings were it's out of a box of plumbing parts. Nothing fancy. We're just going to use the proper drill bit and piece of all thread. And really with that all thread, we may not even need to clamp this project together with project clamps, which is probably the way I would really normally approach this. But I want to try to take a stab at using what we have in the bone pile of extra materials we got laying around. So the idea is to kind of be creative. The idea is to not spend any money on the project. The idea is to take junk and remnant materials and turn it into something beautiful without having to spend a lot of money out of it, and see where it goes. So I'm going to start drilling these boards and start getting the all thread placed, and I want to see how this turns out. If everything looks good, I'll be back on a next segment of this video so that we can see how everything looks as we start gluing it up.